Listen to me. And so the moment God wields it, because this battle axe is not the lifeless axe, it's the axe. The axe there is just like when Peter was talking, he said, for we are living stones. Living stones. So it's not dead stones. There are dead stones, there are living stones. What he calls living stones are human beings, believers. So the fact that he used stones to represent them does not mean they are lifeless. The fact they use axe to represent it does not mean you are lifeless. A picture of the axe and the man holding it is a picture of God and the believer. Whereas God can be holding the believer to warfare, but the man is a coward. He enters the battle and sees Goliath, and then he draws back. We never know that God is the one holding him, because his heart is not strong enough to go. The only way we will know that God is behind you, the only way we will know that the hand of God is on you, is if your heart is strong enough to advance. Because it is when you advance, God is not with you if you're a coward. Because the actions that should have been taken to now prove that God was the one using you will not be taken. Then when they look at your life, it will be looking as if God is not really interested in doing anything for you. It will be as if God is allowing you, and you need to know when God is the one allowing you to pass through some things, and when the time has passed but you are still in the problem just because you are afraid to do some things, some radical things. This idea that believers are supposed to be very quiet people, it is not in the Bible. The believers, the people we preach about in the Bible are not timid. You won't find one. You will not find one, starting from Abraham, starting from Noah. Noah stood at the door of the ark and refused people to enter. That's the kind of Christians. It's not people that are soft. We could not. Noah refused people to enter the ark. Even though he saw that they were about to die. He said, no, nobody can enter now. Until he eventually shut it. And then God locked it from behind. It's Noah that granted permission for people to enter. I know the story has it that God locked the door from the behind because he would have opened it. But the other part of the story is that he actually refused entry. Abraham is not timid. Joseph is not timid. They might have this personality that is quiet. You look at Daniel, what a quiet guy. But Daniel, the day he came before Belshazzar, is it Belshazzar or Darius? Before Darius, they were having a party that meant for the temple, and they were drinking and celebrating with it, marrying and doing all kinds of nonsense. In the midst of the battle, in the midst of the celebration, the king saw a hand that wrote Mene Mene Teke Ufasin. And the moment he saw it, he became troubled. Because nobody could interpret the meaning of the writing. And when they consulted the wise men and they could not interpret it, they had to look for Daniel. When Daniel came, the king said, I have heard about you. I heard you have a reputation for interpreting dreams. And you are this, you are that. If you are able to tell me what this thing means, whatever you demand, even if it's half of my kingdom. Do you hear what Daniel told him? He said, stay with your kingdom. It was like, keep your kingdom to yourself. Now hear the word of the Lord. Today, your kingdom, you have been weighed in the palace and you have been found wanting. Today, your kingdom is taken from you. Daniel may appear quiet. It is not when it's time to talk. Are you hearing what I'm saying? A coward man will not be able to tell the king like that to his face. There is nobody we talk about in the Bible that is timid, shaking, and unable to speak out when it matters the most. There's none. So this idea of Christianity that I don't even know what to call it, to win a battle, but the vessel he's using out of his own fear can limit what God wants to do. You look at Goliath and the army of Israel, you actually believe that Goliath was out to win that warfare. We would never have known that God was out to win that warfare until David came into the picture. So we say that a brave and courageous man. This is the quality, the third quality. Am I correct? Unfortunately, this is where I will end. I have about this and courageous, like we see. I said their first characteristics is what? They are willing to risk their lives to make sure the problem is solved, to address the situation. In other words, they are willing to die, willingness to die. Like Esther, like the men of David. They rather die than to remain alive and the problem remains with them. They will die trying. Number two, we said they are daring and they are bold. That's how we came to this prayer. And we saw David, and we saw him in his engagement. He was down. In fact, in one occasion, running because Saul wanted to kill him, his men of Nabal. Have you heard the story of? They were the herdsmen of Nabal. So while David was a fugitive, he used the opportunity to be helping them out. Eventually, when they are going back, he sent a message to their boss that they should assist with some, what do you call it now? Food items. You know, there's something they call it. Supplies. Yes, they should assist with some supplies, food supplies for him and his men. Seeing that they had helped them for this long. And then when they took the request to Nabal, he said, who is that man? I don't know him. I don't know him. He's a nobody. I don't know him. He just dismissed it. And then they brought the report back to David, who, remember why he's in the wilderness first, is that what? He is running away for his life. The king and his soldiers and his troop, they want to kill David. Since David killed Goliath, the glory that came from it caused a lot of problems. That the same person that sent him to kill Goliath now wants to kill him. He didn't have power to kill Goliath, but now, him and his army, they suddenly have developed strength to kill David. So it is in the midst of running away that this thing I'm saying happened. When David had his say what? He told his men, let's go. He said, the best way I will say it is not to say it the way he said it. Is to say it in the way we understand. He said, may God punish me if by tomorrow morning there is one person that is still pissing on the wall remaining in his family. He took his men and they moved. He said, if one of the male people, if one man remains of his family by tomorrow morning, then I am not David. That's how to talk. That's how to talk. By the time he got halfway, he was out for action. One of the servants of Nabal had gone to his wife, is it Abigail or no, and told her, this your husband, his mouth will kill him one day. See what has happened, and David is now on his way to finish him off. So Abigail took all those food supplies, ran to meet him halfway, and knelt down and appealed to him and said, don't allow this man to stain your hand. Said all the things she said. He accepted. Even while Abigail was talking, he said, if by tomorrow morning there is anyone that pisseth on the wall, that's the way the Bible says it, that pisseth on the wall. It means, okay, you found it. It means you only have people that bend down to peace remaining in his life, in his family. That's how to speak. They had to intervene and cover up for a man that is running. Do you understand what I'm saying? David is nothing short of daring, nothing short of bold. When I study about David, I study him often and often because I want to be like him. And he never lost any battle. He didn't lose any battle. The day they killed Jonathan, David went to fight with the Philistines. The Philistines refused. So he was not in that battle. He actually wanted to fight with them because they have sent him out. So, but God did not want him. So God distracted him with another battle. And then they killed Goliath. They killed Jonathan there. The bold, brave, and courageous man is daring. Is bold. There is another man I want to introduce to you. We all know Jesus, don't we? Go and study about Jesus in view of my teaching. I don't know how people come up with this opinion of Jesus that doesn't add up. Chukudi, have you read the book of Luke? The best book to read to enjoy your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. The Pharisees come against him. Have you read John chapter 9? Have you read John chapter 9? In John chapter 9, there was a man that was born blind, I think, or lame. I can't heal him. The scribes, it is Sabbath day and all of that. They now brought the guy. They said the guy has been blind from birth. They now brought the guy to his parents to ask them, do you know this guy? I expected the parents to say, hey, he cannot see. He cannot see. They say, yes, we know him. He's our son. Then I asked them, does he used to see? He said, no. How come he cannot see? He said, why not ask him? He's an adult. The attitude of their parents was shocking. For a child that has not seen, I'm telling you, John chapter 9, that has not seen from childhood. What was the issue? They were afraid of those guys. They are trying to exonerate themselves from the miracle because they already know that there is problem. That's example of scribes and Pharisees, what they look like. If they come at you, and because they are the ones in charge, when they come at you, you only be explaining yourself to them anyhow. He called them names. You brood of vipers, you have come. You are standing before people that can melt you now. They come with so much aggression that anything you say now, they can You brood of vipers. I'm sure when Jesus said it, he will smile like me. Let me tell you another thing he calls them when they gather. They'll gather like this and ask him a question. He say, "Oh hypocrites, nobody talks to them like that. Nobody talks to them like that. If those guys are standing, everybody is." In fact, the people following Jesus were more impressed by his ability to challenge these guys. He challenges them without any consequence. I don't know anybody that Jesus, in one day, they quoted, in trying to contradict him, they quoted Moses. He told them he's greater than Moses. They quoted Abraham. They said, "Before Abraham, I was." You don't make such comments to a Jewish man. A Jewish man believes Abraham is God self. You say, "Your father Abraham was happy to see my days." What? If you talk of daring and boldness, I leave it to Jesus. Is number one. At the time he did ministry during the Roman time. Rome. If you existed during the Roman Empire, you see, in prophecy, they were identified as the leg of iron teeth. Everywhere you see the Roman Empire, they identify with iron. That's how their government was. Iron government. Jesus was doing ministry in the most unfriendly season, and yet his mouth was sharp. He challenged. Did you see when they brought him before Pilate? I wish I can add it, because now I understand what happened the more. Bring Mike. Let me see if you can add. Bring Mike. Let me add it. Jesus was in chains, and he was brought in before a governor. Standing before a governor, how will you stand? You know how you will stand. And be ready to, answer all the questions they will ask you, and be ready to, give some respect to the governor, and be wowed by his presence. Be wowed being in his office, looking at phone to take selfie. But since it is not a situation of selfie, they are about to crucify a man. You should be talking about what you will say to the governor so that he can grant you bail. So Jesus enters the governor's office and stood like this. Because sometimes the thing that pains people about bold people, sometimes, give me the mic. Sometimes the thing that pains people about bold people is not what they say. Sometimes it's their looks. Ask me the question. Let me show you how Jesus was looking at him. Do you remember the question Pilate asked him? Oh yeah. Is that all the question? Ask the next question. God has the power to set. Where is he? Now Jesus stood before the governor. When you stand before the governor, I should expect. And the governor asked him, saying, "Are you the king of..." Okay, he answered this guy. Where is the guy he ignored? There is one guy that asked all the question. He didn't answer him. Listen. And the governor asked him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "Just as you have said." It's just as you have said. Next verse. And while he was being accused he answered nothing. Verse. Then Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" Then he answered him not one word. And the governor was greatly marveled, So that time he was asking him, are you not hearing the accusation? And they'll be looking at you eye to eye. It's so painful. Have you seen certain facial expressions? Jesus had it. When I read Bible now, I appear in the scene and I'm seeing the movie. Can I see some verse 15? Let me see. Has he finished? Let's leave the stories. But Jesus was a man that was nothing less of bold, nothing less of brave. Did you see when Jesus entered the synagogue or the temple and found them buying and selling? He saw them buying and selling. What did he do? Of all the things to do, he took Cain. If I enter here now and see you people buying and selling, out of all Jesus did, what I might have mind to do is to scatter the goods. Scatter it, match it and scatter it. He corrected Cain. When you start running, like Michael, when they wipe him, when I read, he wasn't a quiet, he was the difficult person. If he gives it to you, if Jesus give unto you. In fact, he was talking to Pharisees one day. He said, you thieves, you stand in the door, you will not enter, you will not allow others to enter. What word did he not use for them? I believe some people, their respect for Jesus was how he was a headache to those Pharisees. Before he came, everything was calm. Everybody was compliant. The other person that had mouth was John the Baptist. That's another person that has, because he collected it from Elijah. But he didn't have the other one, which I will show you next. That's because there are certain people that will go beyond your mouth and put hands on you. If they find that you have empty record that was talking all this while. So I'm not challenging you to be an empty, what do they call, toothless bulldog. You can't bite. You're supposed to be, when you bark and they actually make attempt, you bite. That's what Elisha did to them. When you see Hazael or one of them sent people to him. The king sent people on assignment to go and consult one native doctor or whatever to confirm if the king would die. On their way, Elijah stopped them and said, come on, go back. Go and ask him if there is no God in Israel that is going to consult a witch doctor. Come on, go back. They went back and told the king that we were going jejely, and somebody came and sent us back. And the way he sent us back, there's no way to disobey him. The king said, there's only one person on earth that can do this. The king started, is he a hairy man? What did he look like? What was he wearing? He said, Elijah. Somebody say after me, Elijah. When they hear the thing, they say, Kai, there's only one person. I like to have a reputation for being the headache of the kingdom of darkness, or the people that are using it. I hate injustice. I hate, what do you call it? I hate, what do you call it now? I hate intimidation. You say, it's only Elijah that will do this. The king got angry and sent a group of people and said, go to him and drag him here. So he felt that his father Ahab was just following this guy's mouth. He never tried to arrest him. He started to do more than his father. His son must be greater than the father. Go and get him for me. When they come, they just say, the king asks for you. He said, I should come down and follow you. He said, if I be a man of God, let fire come down and consume you and your feet. And they roasted to death. I presume he sat back on the tree where he was, eating his apple. It just to let them know that he can bite. That the voice is not out of faith. There is teeth. When you are shouting, and you are shouting, they want to find out whether you are just shouting as a baby or you are shouting as an adult. They check for teeth. There is teeth. Anyway, that's Jesus. That's Jesus. But let me introduce one more person. His name is Paul. This is the last guy. This is the last example I will give here. I will start from Acts chapter 17, verse 16, from verse 16. I will read 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 scriptures. Acts chapter 17. Now, while Paul waited for them at Athens, remember I said that you can only see a bold person in the way he speaks. You can only know, rather, in the way he speaks and in the way he acts. His spirit was provoked within him when he saw that the city was given over to idols. Yes? Therefore, he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews. He went to the Jews and with the Gentile worshippers, and in the marketplace daily with those who happened to be there. Then certain Epicurean and Stoic philosophers encountered him and said, what does this babbler want to say? Others said, he seems to be a proclaimer of foreign gods because he preached Jesus and the resurrection. Yes? And they took him and brought him to Areopagus, saying, may we know what this new doctrine... Already there is trouble here now. Are you following the reading? Already he entered, he was waiting. Remember, he was waiting in Athens. It's not his. It's more like he didn't have visa there. And he went and started doing ministry. At this point, he got arrested. He said, tell us what you are speaking about. Yes? For you are bringing strange things to our ears. We want to know what these things mean. Hear what he said then. For all the Athenians and foreigners who were there spent their time in nothing else, but to either tell or to hear some new thing. Then Paul stood in the midst of the Areopagus and said, men of Athens, I perceive in all things that you are very religious. That's a man that is about to be clinched. It will only take you a heart that doesn't fail to be talking when you have been arrested. Have they ever arrested you? Have you ever been arrested by police? Whatever to shut down. So fear. What police wants to do is to put fear in you. If they can't succeed, they will get tired. There are some people as they are beating, they say, you slap me, you are going to lose your job. You will hit him again. I say, don't worry. Eat. Come out the teeth. Because when I'm done with you, they are hitting you. They are watching you. Say, Shebi, we are going to say, when I finish with you, I've seen your name, James. You are gone. He will hit you again. Boom. I said, don't worry. As they are beating you, you are talking. Let them not stop you from talking. Once your mouth shuts up, You have given in to fear. Gathered him, brought him before the leader, assembled everybody, and put it on him. Say, I perceive people are very religious. That's a very wrong thing to say in the midst of trouble. Not for a daring man. Maybe one other verse. Let me see. For as I was passing through and considering the objects of your worship, I even found an altar with this inscription: to the unknown God. Therefore, the one whom you worship without knowing is the one I came to proclaim to you. Don't be crazy, they worry this man. I know some of you don't understand the context. It's more like you went to preach in Saudi Arabia and they arrested you and brought you before the authorities and asked you what you are preaching. And your first statement is to pass your assessment of who they are. But let me show you another example. This is in Acts chapter 21 from verse 8. Another crisis happened here. On the next day, we who were Paul's companions departed and came to Caesarea and entered the house of Philip the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Yes? Now this man had 4 virgin daughters who prophesied, and as we stayed many days, a certain prophet named Agabus came down from Judea. When he had come to us, he took Paul's belt, bound his own hands and feet, and said, "Thus says the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this belt and deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles." At this time, he is planning to go to Jerusalem. So this guy was seeing what was waiting for him in Jerusalem and began to prophesy. I know if they prophesy this to you, you will use wisdom. Now, when we heard these things, both we and those from that place pleaded with him not to go up to Jerusalem. Then Paul answered, "What do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am not only ready to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Lord Jesus." That's how they talk. Verse 14. So when he would not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, "The will of the Lord." You can't persuade a man that is bold just because you perceive there is danger. You can't convince him. Danger is not enough reason to retreat. The will of the Lord. One more verse. And after those days, we packed and went up to Jerusalem. When they got to Jerusalem, just fast forward because of time. Fast forward to 27. When they got to Jerusalem, problem started. 27, verse 27. 28. Okay. See what happened. Seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd, and they took him, crying out, "Men of Israel, help. This is the man who teaches all men everywhere against the people." They accused him. Verse 29. For they had previously seen whom they supposed that Paul, yes, 30. And all the city was disturbed. And the people ran together, seized Paul, and dragged him out of the temple. Obviously, there is problem. And immediately the doors were shut. Go ahead. Now, as they were seeking to kill him, this is where they would have killed him. News came to the commander of the garrison that all Jerusalem was in an uproar. He immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down to them. And when they saw the commander and the soldiers, they stopped beating Paul. Of course, the securities intervened. Are you still with me? The securities intervened. Then the commander, but can you picture what is going on? So you should know by now, Paul would have realized himself. No be so? It's like we are tired though. Maybe I will just leave it. I've already made enough points. But I'd like you to see something from this guy. Clearly, what they prophesied is not happening. He would have been killed. Somebody mentioned to the authorities and they intervened. And actually, it's just like when they want to set somebody on fire. Police comes there and picks the person. The person knows he has just escaped death by near-death experience. So of course they came near, took him, put him in chains, and asked who he was and what he has done. For now. And some among the men cried, and the other one another. So when he could not ascertain the truth because of the riot, he commanded him to be taken into the barracks. Now he's in the barracks. He has been taken by the military. And he should have been recovering from the beating that he just received and the dragging, the crisis he just came out from. His mouth should have been quiet by now. No be so. If you went through this, you won't be talking again. You'll be humble. If when those military men will be talking to you, you'll be explaining, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I was just on my own. What did I do say wrong? And they want to kill me. Is that how you people do here? What? These people are wicked. When he reached the stairs, he was carried by the soldiers. So it's not police that arrested him. Because of the violence of the mob. Yes, the man. For the multitude of the people followed after, crying, away with him. Then Paul was about to be led into the barracks. He said to the commander, because he knows his destination is not barracks. He has journey to catch. He said to the commander, may I speak to you? He replied, can you speak Greek? Are you not the Egyptian who some time ago stirred up a rebellion and led the 4,000 assassins out of the wilderness? But Paul said, I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I implore you, permit me to talk to the people. So he still has mouth to ask for permission to go and talk, where they seized you from the people. But you know, if you can't talk, at this point, you are not going to be making any request. In fact, the mouth you have for talking, the beating and what you passed through would have shut it down. Are you getting what I'm trying to just show you certain qualities? Because put yourself in this man's shoes. He was actually granted permission. So when he had given him permission, Paul stood on the stairs and motioned with his hand to the people. And there was a great silence. The people that just beat you up now, still struggling with the soldiers to catch you, you say, hey, come. Everybody calm down. He spoke to them in Hebrew language, saying, brethren, you are in 22 now. Brethren and fathers, hear my defense before you now. And when they heard that he spoke to them in the Hebrew language, all of them kept quiet the more. Then he said, I am indeed a Jew born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, taught according to the strictness of our father's law. These guys, the beating did not affect his memory. I'm sure if you are the one they beat like this, by now you forget where you came from. And was zealous towards God as you all are today. But I don't have the time. You can read it later. Go to where my point is. That's in verse 21. In verse 21, where my point is. From the day Paul entered Jerusalem, he continued to suffer crisis until the book of Acts was over. 21, yes, he said 21. Then he said to me, depart. He's talking about his encounter with Jesus. That's where he is now. I will send you far from here to the Gentiles. And they listened to him until this point. And they raised their voices and said, away with such a fellow from the earth, for he is not fit to live. 23, let's see what happened. Then as they cried out and tore off their clothes and threw dust in the air, the commander ordered him to be brought into the barracks. Remember the first time he wanted to enter, he said, allow me to talk to them. This time now, talking to them created more problem. And he said that he should be examined under scourging. You know what is scourging? know what is scourging? I explained it to you some days back, some weeks back. So that they might know why they shouted is more like interrogation. Why they shouted on that. And as they bound him with tongues, Paul said to the centurion who stood by, they've already arrested him. Come, is it lawful for you to scourge a man who is a Roman and uncondemned? As far as you are not, as far as your mouth is not shut, no matter the crisis, you can still come out. When the centurion heard that, he went and told the commander, saying, take care what you do, for this man is a Roman. Is he a Roman? Is Paul a Roman? You see, they are not following my reading. Is Paul a Roman? What is happening to him now is that he knows the Roman law, and he knows it's unlawful to interrogate a Roman citizen. But in his missionary journey, he has learned the way of the Romans. You remember when he said, when I am with the Romans, I behave like. He has learned their culture and everything. So the moment it was clear that he's going to trial, he brought up another thing. One thing I'm passing by is, in the situation this man found himself, he should not be talking again. He should have been cold by now. But no. A bold person, his mouth can't shut up. If police slap him, I've seen people in cell, if they hit him, they say, when I come out from here, I will deal with all of you. Some people, once they slap them 2 times and enter and they put them inside the cell, they will off. You don't have to off engine. They will beat. Hey, you slap me. You, what is your name? Christopher, you slap me. When I come out from here, I will kill you. And yet the inside said, let me tell you, sometimes those policemen get afraid. And when they are discharging them, they say, Shebi, I've come out. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. They say, bros, no verse, no verse. Nah, just our work they do. There's a way a man will talk. You won't take it for granted. He said, as soon as he asked this one was just standing over. He said, is it lawful for you to interrogate a Roman citizen? The guy ran to the commander and said, you have to be careful what you are doing. This man is a Roman. Next verse. Then the commander came and said to him, tell me, are you a Roman? He said, yes. Yes, now go ahead. Then immediately those who were about to examine him withdrew from him. This is how he escaped from this one. And the commander was also afraid after he found out that he was a Roman. But is Paul a Roman? And because, I didn't see that last part, just go. And because he had bound him, of course, that's Paul was changing the issue from his own offense to another thing. Verse 30, the next day, because he wanted to know for certain why he was accused by the Jews, he released him from his bonds and commanded the chief priests, watch the council, and all their council to appear. And then they brought Paul down and set him before them. Now the whole council in Jerusalem was present. And Paul, looking earnestly at the council, should have expected him to be intimidated by the Igwe that gathered him. Looking earnestly at them, he said, men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded those who stood by him to slap him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit to judge me according to law, and you command me to be struck contrary to the law. I thought by now this guy would have stopped talking. Those who stood, leave the story. You can go and read. I did a study of this guy. There is nothing you do to Paul, and he has stopped talking. Nothing fails his hand. There was a particular time they were traveling. They got to a particular place. He said, let us wait here. They said, shut up. What do you know about traveling? There were, in the middle of the journey, their ship, there was turbulence. And their ship was about to capsize. He said, Listen, that's the prisoner. They were taking him to go and meet Caesar. He requested to see Caesar. So they were taking him to go and meet Caesar. In the midst of the journey, their ship capsized. So before the thing happened, is the prisoner that said, listen, let me tell you, all of you, listen, nothing will happen to anybody as long as I'm here. That's the man that should have been praying in tongues. Shaka. Lord, may the ship collapse. May all of them die so that I can have my freedom. Anyway, I want to finish chapter 25. One more. Chapter 25. Now, when Festus had come to the province, this thing has dragged from 23 to 20. It's not a different matter. It's still the same thing. The back and forth was too long because Paul cannot just keep quiet and be crucified. Paul, he cannot just keep quiet. Let them just deal with him. He keeps talking himself out, challenging everybody in the process. So finally, Festus is a governor. He came to the province. After 3 days, he went to Jerusalem. Yes, verse 2. Then the high priest and the chief men of the Jews informed him against Paul, and they petitioned him, yes, asking a favor against him, that he will summon him to Jerusalem, while they lay in the ambush along the road to kill him. Of course, by this time, they felt the best way is to secretly bring him out and kill him on the road. Anyway, but Festus answered that Paul should be kept at Caesarea and that he himself was coming there. Therefore he said, let those who have authority among you go down with me and accuse this man. So he went with an entourage to see if there is any fault in him. Verse 6. And when he had remained among them more than 10 days, he went down to Caesarea. The next day, sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded them to bring Paul. Yes? When he had come, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood about and laid many serious complaints against Paul, which they could not prove. While he answered for himself, neither against the law of the Jews, nor against the temple, nor against Caesar, have I offended anything at all. They are accusing him, saying, I did not do anything. Yes? But Festus, wanting to do the Jews a favor, answered Paul and said, are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and there be judged before me concerning these things? So Paul said, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. To the Jews I have done no wrong, as you well very know. So this is a Turanchi way of saying no. Verse 11. For if I am an offender or have committed anything deserving of death, I don't object to dying. But if there is nothing in these things of which these men accuse me, no one can deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar. I don't even want to hear you. Take me to Caesar. Verse 12. Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, you have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you shall go. But something happened. For something happened when Agrippa. Have you heard of Agrippa? Agrippa is a higher ranking person. While they were waiting for Caesar, Agrippa came. Rush to verse 22. Rush to verse 22. Then Agrippa said to Festus, I will like to hear the man myself. Tomorrow, he said, you shall hear him. Yes? So the next day, when Agrippa and Bernice had come with great pomp and entered the auditorium with the commanders, so a lot of dignitaries and the prominent men of the city, at Festus' command, Paul was brought in. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all the men who are here present with us, you see this man about whom the whole assembly of the Jews petitioned me, both at Jerusalem and here, crying out that he was no longer fit to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing deserving of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus Caesar, I decided to send him. I have nothing certain to write to my Lord concerning him. I have brought him out before you, especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after examination has taken place, I may have something to write. For it seems to me unreasonable to send a prisoner. Before this is to write. Verse 28. Then Agrippa said to Paul, you are permitted to speak for yourself. So Paul stretched out his hand and answered for himself. And That mannerism. That mannerism. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because today I shall answer myself before you concerning all these things of which I am accused by the Jews. When people are talking like that, you know that. Okay. Verse 1. Yes. Verse 1. Verse 1. Now you are in verse 3. Then Agrippa, okay. You move me to 26. Go to, okay. That means it's not, go to verse 24. Go to verse 24. Because this speech, you can go and read all the speech. I want to highlight the part where there was disagreement. And I want to show you how Paul did not mind anybody they brought him before. His talk was consistent. Are you hearing me? And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all the men who are here present with us. 26 now. Now, as he thus made his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you are beside yourself. It's the Festus that said he did not know. Much learning is driving you mad. You need to go and read his presentation before Agrippa to know why this guy got mad. Go and put it in NLT. Let's read it to NLT to 29. Suddenly Festus shouted, Paul, you are insane. Too much study has made you crazy. Because it's also good to know how to talk. It's also good to know how to talk. It's not the you see how he stretched his hand. He said, I am happy that you are here to hear me today. And I'm happy to defend myself before you, O King Agrippa. Yes, he said, what I am saying is the sober. Yes, next verse. Okay, has Paul started talking? Go to verse 24 again. You are confusing me. 24, I have one more point. You are too much study has made you crazy. Yes, 25. But Paul replied, I am not insane. Most excellent Festus. He added excellent. What I am saying is the sober truth. And King Agrippa, he said, King Agrippa knows these things. He knows it. I speak boldly, for I am sure these events are familiar to him. For they were not done in a corner. He knows he's the king. Verse 27. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophet? I know you do. I know you do. You don't need to answer. Agrippa interrupted him. Do you think you can persuade me to become a Christian so quickly? Paul replied, whether quickly or not, I pray to God that both you and everyone here in this audience might become the same as I am, except for these chains. How can a man be so bold in his talk? I'm sure you have not studied this guy like this. You have to know how to talk. But there is one last point. And that's the third characteristics of these bold people. One last point as we end. They are conscious of divine backing. They are conscious of divine backing. And some scriptures I read before is just what I will show you. Show me that 1 Samuel 17 verse 44. 1 Samuel 17 verse 44. Any man that shows this level of boldness is conscious of something. He knows he has backing. Come over here and I will give your flesh to the birds and wild animals. Goliath yelled. Yes. David replied to the Philistines, you come to me with the sword and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. They are conscious of divine backing. The Lord, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Maybe one more verse. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand. So their boldness is a consciousness of the fact that God is behind me. Me, I get back, I know they walk alone. They know they are not walking alone. They have backing. And another one is in 1 Samuel 23. What happened there again? Just to show you that. Then they told David, saying, look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and they are robbing the threshing floors. Yes? Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go and attack the Philistines? He must settle the fact that God is behind him before he goes and starts shouting. And the Lord said to David, go and attack the Philistines. When he now wanted to move, his men said to him, look, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? David went again and asked God once again. And the Lord answered and said to him, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into your hand. So they are conscious of divine battle. This is not for you to be going out there to challenge things without being sure of what is behind you. You must ensure that God is behind you. And one last scripture on this is 1 Samuel 26 verse 12. 1 Samuel 26 verse 12. So David took the spear and the jug of water by Saul's head, and they got away, and no man saw or knew it or awoke, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord. So you might think David is so brave to go and take something from the people that want to kill him, but he knows that God is the one that put them to sleep. We don't have time. Tomorrow is 6 hours. It is baptism of boldness. Lord, baptize me with the spirit of boldness. That's your prayer throughout tomorrow. We will turn the waters up here. That blood of coward, that cowardly blood that is inside you, we will drain it tomorrow. That civilian blood will be drained. There's no time to pray. But as we exit these 40 days, let every single one of us have the heart of a warrior, the strength of a lion, the heart of a lion, the spirit of boldness. You will have what it takes to confront the things that have kept you within a corner. Your mouth will never stop talking, no matter the situation you find yourself. In Jesus' name we pray. For thine is the kingdom, cast your seed. Will continue by 12.